Welcome to the Locals Guide. In today's Locals Guide episode, we're going to be doing US 64, which is the longest road in North Carolina, along with North Carolina Highway 400. And yes, both of these roads do intersect, so that's why I'm doing both of them. Also, I'm doing US 64 because I missed a lot of stuff when I originally did the highway a couple years ago, so I want to give my piece of my mind to these all horrible bad control cities that we can see listed here. And there's going to be a lot more. So let us get started with this partial reboot of US Highway 64. But first, you're watching the TheDerpHog, where I make highways content on all sorts of different topics. If you've been enjoying it, be sure to hit that like button. And if you've been really enjoying it, be sure to smash that subscribe button so you're notified on all future videos. And if you really want to help out the channel, become a member today where you get custom cool emojis, early access to future videos, along with one free extra request per month. And if you don't want to become a member, you can always just pay $3 for a intersection request in future videos. Those highways will be listed down in the description below, and I'll make sure to shout you out when that video releases. So let's get on with the highway. As you can see here, this is the map of US 64 as it runs from southwestern North Carolina all the way over to the Outer Banks region at a junction with US Highway 158. And this blue part here is part of the highway that I've been on. So with that, we're going to be talking about eastbound US 64. So you begin here at the Tennessee and North Carolina state line, where we have a cool one-off one-liner here with the Mateos as on it from 563 miles away. That is a very long distance. And we already gained neglectance here as US 74 is being neglected because it is concurrent with 64 here. Here you're arming with US Highway 19 and 129, and 19 and 129 are going to be joining with us as we head towards Murphy. Are you kidding me? We're only in our first town and we already have a bad sign. US 64 East for Hayesville. You wanna know what the population of Hayesville is? It's only like 300 and something people. And we don't even meet anything important in Hayesville. So why in the world is it being signed on US 64? That should be Franklin. Sign Franklin, NCDOT. That's our next major town. But once we got into 64 itself, we do have a direction sign for both Hayesville and Franklin. So where in the world was Franklin on that sign? I don't get you sometimes, NCDOT. And then in first mileage time, we do get Franklin as our primary from 48 miles away. Here in Hayesville, we are meeting with North Carolina 69, which will take you to downtown Hayesville, while South 69 will take you all the way down to Atlanta, because we do meet a couple of Georgia state highways along with US 76, which will take you there. And seeing that Atlanta is awesome. Good job, NCDOT. And after meeting North Carolina 69, we do get Franklin as our primary from 37 miles away, and a one-liner too. And then here in the Franklin area, we are meeting with US 441 and US 23, as we're now getting signed for Silva and Brevard. And our next mileage time, we do get Brevard as our primary from 59 miles away. Good job, NCDOT. But when we split off from US 23 and 441, Brevard goes away, and we're now getting signed for Highlands. Why in the world are you being signed for Highlands? Highlands only has 1,000 people. Well, Brevard is slightly bigger, but we meet US 276 there. Again, we do not meet anything important in Highlands, so why in the world are you signing it NCDOT? And to make it even worse, we just get a one-liner here for Highlands. So, where in the world is Brevard? What happened to it? I want to see him back. Here in Highlands, where we splitting off from North Carolina Highway 28, and we're now getting signed for cashiers. NCDOT, this is not a grocery store. This is a US highway. So sign Brevard. Here we meet North Carolina Highway 107 in cashiers, and we're finally getting signed for Brevard once again. Thank you. And here we get a 3-line mileage sign here. After meeting North Carolina 107, we get Brevard as our primary from 28 miles away. Here we are meeting with US 178 in the middle of nowhere, and we're still signed east for Brevard. Here in Brevard, we are meeting with US 276, and 276 is now going to become concurrent with us as we head towards Hendersonville. And then here we get a cool mileage sign here for 3 different routes. Hendersonville is for us from 21 miles away. Asheville is for North Carolina 280. And then Waynesville is for US 276. So this is a rare NCDOT W here. And that's how you do a mileage sign for 3 different routes. Here we split off from both North Carolina 280 and US Highway 276. As they go to their towns respectively, while we're going to be heading towards Hendersonville. Here in downtown Hendersonville, we are meeting with Business US 25, as US 25 proper is concurrent with Interstate 26. And the weird thing is that US 176 actually ends about a little over half a mile down the road from here. So if I was NCDOT, I'd actually put a 2 US 176 here for like what they should do in western West Virginia with that 2 US 48. Anyways, we're now meeting with Interstate 26, which it gets awesome control cities of Spartanburg and Asheville. We're now getting signed for Batcave. Why in the world are you being signed for Batman's home? NCDOT, why are you trying to reveal the identity of Batman? That should be Rutherfordton. And even worse, Batcave is also an unincorporated community. So this should definitely be Rutherfordton, not Batcave. Anyways, in Batcave, we are meeting with US 74 alternate and North Carolina Highway 9. And we're now getting signed for Lake Lure and Chimney Rock. 2 resorts towns and a state park. No, Rutherfordton. It should be Rutherfordton. And when we split off from North Carolina Highway 9, and we are now getting signed for Rutherfordton and Morganton, which are the correct choices. Why couldn't we see it earlier when we joined these 2 highways? And then here we get a mileage sign with Rutherfordton on the top line, Morganton as our secondary, and then we get Charlotte from 85 miles away. Normally I'd be happy to see this mileage sign, but if they're signing Charlotte on the alternate route of US 74, why couldn't they do this on proper US 74? Proper US 74 is the one that's going to Charlotte, not 74 alternate. Yes, I know 74 alternate does dump back into US 74 proper, but Charlotte should also be signed on 74 proper, not just its alternate route. Here we meet with US Highway 221 in Rutherfordton. And then here's where Truck 221 and 74 alternate leave us as they head into downtown Rutherfordton. And we're now heading north towards Morganton. Here we meet with North Carolina 226 in the middle of nowhere, and we are getting signed for Rutherfordton and Morganton, which are the correct choices. NCDOT, you should be ashamed for yourself. We're meeting Interstate 40 for the first time since Eastern Memphis, and you give it 2 horrible control cities? Are you kidding me? I can't believe that you made one of my favorite video game characters disgusted about these control cities. They should be better. Come on, NCDOT. I hope you improve while we meet Interstate 40 here for multiple times. Here we meet with US 70 in Morganton, and we're going to be concurrent with 70 West here as we bypass around the town. And then here we are meeting with North Carolina Highway 18, and we just get a sign for the Foothills Regional Airport. What is our next control city? I don't need to know the information about a regional airport, unless if I'm flying somewhere. Oh, there we go. We get a one-liner here with Lenore as our primary from 15 miles away. Here we meet with US Highway 321 here, and we're getting this cool Georgia overhead signs here. And we can see that there is a pull through in the distance on US 321. So let us see what we're signed for here. Looks like we're getting signed for Wilkesboro, but that's on North Carolina Highway 18. Why can't we get Statesville for us here too? That should be Wilkesboro and Statesville, not just Wilkesboro by itself. We split off from North Carolina Highway 18 as we're now getting signed for Taylorsville. So, are they just trying to keep Statesville on Interstate 40? Because it should be on US 64 instead, not Interstate 40. And we just get a one-liner here with Taylorsville as our primary. No, this mileage sign should say Taylorsville and Statesville, not Taylorsville by itself. Sign Statesville on 64. And here in Taylorsville, we are getting signed for Statesville for our next control city.
What?
Are you kidding me?
I'm out of here.
Here in Statesville, we are meeting with US 70, which will take you to Interstate 77, while we're going to be heading through downtown Statesville. Here in downtown Statesville, we are meeting with US Highway 21 and North Carolina 115, as we're not going to be concurrent with US 21 here. And then here US 21 and 64 take a turn, as we're now getting signed for Elkin and Moxville. Moxville is a good choice for 64. I don't know about that Elkin. Here is where US 21 splits off of US 64 as 21 heads north towards Elkin and to Interstate 40, while 64 is going to be heading towards Moxville, which it should not have been on 40. Here is where US 64 is going over Interstate 77 here. And then we're now meeting with Interstate 40 on the east side of Statesville, and it's getting signed for Winston-Salem eastbound, which is the correct choice. And why in the world is westbound getting signed for Statesville when we just came from Statesville? That should be Asheville, not Statesville. And on 40 itself, we are getting signed for Moxville, which is the correct choice. Here in Moxville, we're meeting with US 601, and we're now going to be concurrent with it as we head through downtown. Here we meet with US Highway 158 in Moxville, as it'll take you into downtown, while 64 is going to be splitting off from 601, as 64 is now going to be heading towards Lexington. Here we are outside of Lexington, and we're meeting with US 52 and Interstate 285 here, as they get awesome control cities of Winston-Salem and Charlotte. And then here we meet also with US 29 and US 70 in Lexington, as they're now getting signed for High Point, and our next control city is Asheboro, which is the correct choice. And here we get a one-liner here with Asheboro from 24 miles away. Again, this is the correct choice. Here we are meeting with Interstate 85, and 85 surprisingly gets some good control cities for Greensboro and Charlotte, respectively. And then once we get closer to Asheboro, we have a business route which will take you into downtown Asheboro, which I did cover in my original US 64 video, which you can see in the top right corner here. And I'll probably cover when I do a special routes of US 64, maybe sometime next year. And our first exit on proper 64, we get meet with North Carolina 49, which gets signed for Charlotte, which is the correct choice because there's literally nothing between Asheboro and Charlotte Metro on North Carolina 49 worth signing. And then here's my own picture of 64 meeting with 73, 74, and 220. And we're now getting signed east for Siler City. Are you kidding me? Our next major city is Raleigh. Sign Raleigh. You have a capital NCDOT, so sign it. Here we meet with North Carolina's version of the Zoo Interchange, or to North Carolina 159 for the Zoo. And we meet with North Carolina 42 for 102 times, as it's getting signed for Asheboro and Sanford here, because we're too far away from Fuquay. And we're now reuniting with the business route, as we're now getting still signed east for Siler City, No, like I said, that should be Raleigh. And the worst thing is, here out in Asheboro, we're now getting signed for Ramseur at this random junction here. So, are we getting signed for Siler City or Ramseur? Pick a lane, NCDOT. Here we went North Carolina 22, and 22 is now going to be concurrent with us as we head through Ramseur. Here is where North Carolina 49 splits off from US 64 as it's heading towards Liberty and Burlington. And we're now getting signed for Siler City once again. But you want to know what the weird thing is? That we have a mileage sign here, and guess what's on the bottom line of this mileage sign? It's Raleigh. So why in the world is Siler City as our primary, but when we have a mileage sign for Raleigh, literally right here? So we should be getting signed for Raleigh, not Siler City, NCDOT. Here we meet with US Highway 421, which gets good control cities of Greensboro and Sanford. And immediately after this 421 junction, we get another mileage sign with Raleigh as our primary from 48 miles away. Here we meet with the Pittsboro business route as it'll take you into downtown Pittsboro, which is a pretty cool place. I recommend checking it out. And then here we get another mileage sign. We get Cary as our top line and Raleigh as our primary from 37 miles away. Here, still in Pittsboro, we meet with North Carolina 87, which is being signed for Burlington and Spring Lake. I wonder why that Spring Lake is there. That should not be there. Here we meet with US or the 15501 as it's being signed for Chapel Hill, Sanford, and Carthage. Chapel Hill and Sanford are good choices, but that Carthage should not be on there right now. And here we get a 3-line mileage sign with Jordan Lake as our top line, and then Raleigh still as our primary from 28 miles away. I mean, you could put Jordan Lake as its own brown sign here underneath this mileage sign, but since we do have Raleigh as our primary, I'm okay with this mileage sign. And here's a cool picture of Jordan Lake as I was passing by it the other day. And here's another cool picture of the lake. I do recommend visiting it one day. And then here we get another mileage sign. We get Rocky Mount as our primary from almost 80 miles away. So if they can sign Rocky Mount from 80 miles away, why can't they do Raleigh from Asheboro? It just doesn't make sense. Here we meet with North Carolina 751, which will take you up into Durham and over by the South Point Mall. Well, we're going to be continuing east towards Apex now. Here we are meeting with Kelly Road along with North Carolina 540. And the unusual thing is that these exits are all exit 399. Yes, we're literally 400 miles into the state of North Carolina here. And I do not like this Kentucky treatment for 540. They should be actual control cities. Here we meet with exit 400 or North Carolina 55 for Apex and Durham here. And it'll also take you up to the RDU airport. And on the 55 itself, we are now getting signed for Raleigh, which is the correct choice still. Here we meet with exit 401, which is State Route 1613, or which will take into downtown Apex. Again, is a place that I definitely recommend. And then at that exit, we're now entering into the Albemarle-Pamlico watershed. And here we get another mileage sign. We get Raleigh still as our top line and Rocky Mount as our primary from 71 miles away. And as we creep closer to US 1, we actually pass by Lake Pine Drive, which was part of my childhood, because I used to live in this area of Cary/Apex when I first moved to North Carolina. It was a pretty awesome time. And then now we're meeting with US Highway 1, and we're now being concurrent with 1 North here as we head towards Raleigh. Exit 404. And here's 2 reassurance shields of US 1 and 64 here. And this is roughly the area where a mileage sign used to be, where it had Raleigh on the top line at 9 miles away and Wake Forest is our primary from 28. But if they ever do re-put up this mileage sign, I hope it becomes a pre-minor and be this mileage sign, with Rocky Mount as our primary from 68 miles away, because they weren't originally favoring US 64 on that other mileage sign, so I'd love to see one where they do favor 64. Here we are meeting with Walnut Street and Bucks Jones Road, and we also have an exit for Durham and Benson. No, Benson should not be there. Here's where we split off from US Highway 1 and we're getting signed for Benson and Rocky Mount. No, that should be Wilmington and Rocky Mount, not Benson. Benson does not belong on interstate highways. It only belongs on US or state highways. Here on 40, or part of the Capital Beltway, we are meeting with US 70 and 401 and North Carolina Highway 50 here. And that'll take you up into downtown Raleigh and south to Garner. And Fuquay should definitely be on this sign here. And then here in the Raleigh area, we have two separate signs for both 64 and 40. 64 is the one that's getting signed for Rocky Mount, while 40 is the one getting signed for Benson. No! Wilmington! Wilmington! How many times do I have to say NCDOT? That should be Wilmington! Here we split off from Interstate 40 as it's getting signed east for Benson and Wilmington, which are the correct choices. While we're going to be joining with Interstate 87 here, along with 440 as we're now getting signed for Rocky Mount. Here's where 87 and 64 splits off from Interstate 440 as we're now getting signed for Rocky Mount, Wilson, and Greenville. Here we meet with Interstate 540, which will take you to Wake Forest and RDU Airport here. And here's the current terminus of Interstate 87 as 64 is going to continue east towards Greenville, Wilson, and Rocky Mount. Here we are meeting with US Highway 264, which will become future Interstate 587 as it will get signed for Wilson and Greenville, while we're still getting signed for Rocky Mount. In our next mileage sign, we do get Nashville on our top line, no, that is Nashville, North Carolina, and Rocky Mount as our primary from 29 miles away. Here we meet with exit 459, which for some reason does not have an exit tab here, but it does over here, for North Carolina 58, and which is getting signed for Nashville and Stella. And the reason I'm showing this exit is because I remember stopping at the McDonald's here, which is in the behind the sign, once on one of my many trips back home up to Fredericksburg when I lived up there. So it was pretty cool. Here we meet with Interstate 95, which gets surprisingly good control cities of Fayetteville and Richmond. Why can't they do that throughout on Interstate 95 in North Carolina? And then here in Rocky Mount, we are meeting with US Highway 301, which will also take you up to Wilson. And here we have another mileage sign, and we get Williamston now as our primary from 43 miles away, which is the correct choice because that is the next major town we're going to be passing through. Here in Tarboro, we're meeting with US Highway 258, and we're now getting signed for Princeville. You want to know what Princeville is? It's literally at the next exit. So what happened to Williamston? If you want to have two towns here, it should be Princeville and Williamston, not just Princeville by itself, NCDOT. And here in Princeville, US 258 is splitting off from us as we're now heading towards Williamston. And here's our second meeting with North Carolina Highway 42 as it's now getting signed for Wilson and Hospi. And we're now meeting with US Highway 13, which will take you to Bethel and Greenville. And 13 is now going to be concurrent with us here. And congratulations, we have now reached mile 500 of this great long highway. We're meeting with US Highway 17, which is getting signed for Williamston and Washington. Here we split off from US 13 and 17 as 17 and 13 are being signed for Williamston and Windsor, while we're getting signed east for Plymouth and Manteo. See, Manteo came back after 515 miles. Our next mileage sign, we do get Manteo as our primary from 91 miles away. And then once we get closer, we get Manteo still as our primary from 45 miles away. We also get it on this brown historic mileage sign here, so that's pretty awesome. And then here we are meeting with US Highway 264 as it's being signed for Stumpy Point and Englehart, while we're getting signed for Manteo and Nag's Head. And here we cross over one of the bridges over to Roanoke Island. And here we meet with North Carolina 345, and 64 West will actually take you into downtown Manteo, while 64 East is going to be continuing towards the Outer Banks region. And after meeting with North Carolina 345, we cross over another causeway bridge and onto the Outer Banks. And here we are meeting with US Highway 158 and North Carolina Highway 12, and 158 is being signed for Outer Banks towns, while 12 is also being signed for a lot of stuff. And this here is the official eastern terminus of US Highway 64, and sadly we did not get an end US 64 shield. So with that, me turning around and doing westbound US 64. So we begin here on US 158 itself, where 64 is now getting signed west for Manteo. No, that should be Williamston. And then ways up the road, we're now crossing over one of the causeways back onto Roanoke Island. And we're now meeting with North Carolina 345 once again, and let us go into downtown Manteo this time. And here in downtown Manteo, we're actually meeting with North Carolina Highway 400, and we are going to be following North Carolina 400 because it's only a little over half a mile long. And then here's where North Carolina 400 turns onto Queen Elizabeth Avenue in downtown Manteo. And this is the eastern terminus of North Carolina Highway 400, right in front of this visitor center here. And if we take a left here, it'll take us onto 400 westbound. Here's where North Carolina 400 is going to be continuing on this street here after Croatian Avenue. And then we end North Carolina 400 right at US Highway 64, and we do get a end North Carolina 400 shield. And here's where US 64 is crossing over another causeway back onto mainland North Carolina. And here we meet with US Highway 264 here as we're now getting signed for Williamston, while 264 is getting a primary of Washington, North Carolina. We can also see that there's a mileage sign up ahead, so let's see what's on it. We get Williamston as our primary from 82 miles away, which is the correct choice. But here in Columbia, we're not getting signed for Plymouth. So what in the world happened to Williamston? And in Plymouth, we meet with North Carolina 32, we're now getting signed for Janesville. So why in the world is NCDOT doing New York and just skipping from town to town? This should be Williamston all the way. And then when we get to Janesville, we are finally signed for Williamston once again, which is the correct choice. Here we are meeting with US Highway 13 and 17 once again, and we're now getting signed for Everett and Tarboro. Everett is where 64 alternate reunites with 64 proper, and I don't like to see that Tarboro there either. That's only where we meet US 258. It should be, you could have Tarboro and Rocky Mount here, but not Everett and Tarboro. No one's heard of Everett. Here's where 17 splits off from 13 and 64 as 18 signed for Washington. That should not be Washington. That should be New Bern. Here we split off from US Highway 13, as 13 is now being heading towards Bethel and Greenville. And then we meet with North Carolina 42 for 1 or 2 times going this direction, and it's still getting signed for Wilson and Hosky. Here we meet with North Carolina Highway 33, and this direction we do not have direct access to US 258 northbound. So they should actually put a 2 US 258 northbound here, not just North Carolina 33. And here's where US 258 South splits off from US 64s, and we're now getting signed for Rocky. Here we split off from US 258 as 64 is now getting signed west for Rocky Mount and Nashville. No, that is not the famous Nashville, Tennessee. They're talking about Nashville, North Carolina. Which is not the correct choice, because our next primary should be Raleigh. That should be Rocky Mountain, Raleigh. Because on our next mileage time, we get Raleigh as our primary from 61 miles away. So why in the world are you putting Nashville there? NCDOT. Ugh. Here in Rocky Mount, we're meeting with US 301 once again, and it'll take you down to Wilson. And then we're meeting with Interstate 95 in this direction on 64. We did not get an overhead, we just get it onto the roads, off the roadside here for some reason. And on 95 itself, we are finally getting signed for Raleigh, which is the correct choice. Here we meet with North Carolina 58 once again, which will take you into downtown Nashville. And here we get a mileage sign here with Raleigh as our primary from 33 miles away. Here we meet with US Highway 264 or Future 587, which just gets Wilson. And then further up the road, we're now morphing back into Interstate 87, as 87 is now going to continue west towards Raleigh. Here we meet with 540 once again and just gets the same control cities. And this here is the end of US 264, but 87 and 64 are going to be continuing west of here. And let's see what the sign says here. Here are joining with Interstate 440 here, as we're going to be heading towards Interstate 40 for Durham and Benson. That Benson should not be on there, that should be Wilmington. While 440 west is getting signed for Wake Forest. Let me ask you something. Whatever happened to Raleigh? There is no mention of it here, and there is no, Raleigh city limit sign, so people are confused. If they want to get to Raleigh, they don't know which, lane to take. Well, they should put Raleigh here, or downtown Raleigh, because 440 will take you to downtown Raleigh instead of Wake Forest. 540 was signed for Wake Forest. 440 should not be signed for Wake Forest. It should be something else, like downtown Raleigh. So sign downtown Raleigh on 440. And here's where we meet with Interstate 40 as it's being signed east for Benson and Wilmington, while we're getting signed for Durham. And going this way on Interstate 40, we get an awesome view of the Raleigh skyline here. And we're now meeting with US 70 and 401 in North Carolina Highway 50, which should be getting signed for Fuquay. And here's where we're going to be joining with US 1 once again, as we're now getting signed for Cary and Wake Forest. Here we get a pull through on US 1 itself, as we're now getting signed for Apex, Sanford, and Asheboro, which are the correct choices. Here's where US 64 splits off from US Highway 1, as we're now getting signed for Pittsboro and Asheboro. And then on the outskirts of Apex, we're meeting with North Carolina 540, and it just gets the Kentucky treatment. No thank you. And here we get a mileage sign. We get Jordan Lake on the top line from 4 miles away, and Siler City is our primary from 30. Let me ask you something. What happened to Asheboro? Why in the world are we not getting signed for Siler City? And plus, why in the world is Jordan Lake being signed like as an actual town? It's a lake, it's not an actual town. If you want to sign the place that Jordan Lake meets, how about do, I don't know, Weaverville instead, and then Asheboro as our primary? Or you could do this, NCDOT. Have Pittsboro as our top line, Siler City as our secondary, and Asheboro as our primary, with Jordan Lake as a separate brown one-liner. No need for Jordan Lake on that top line. Anyways, after passing by Jordan Lake, we're now meeting with 15501, which just gets the same control cities as we're heading eastbound on 64. And then once we pass Pittsboro, we get another mileage sign. We get Siler City as our top line and Asheboro as our primary once again from 32 miles away. Here in Siler City, we are meeting with US Highway 421, and they give a Welcome to Siler City sign, so why can't they do the same thing for Raleigh? Here in Ramsey, we're actually meeting with North Carolina Highway 49 here, and 49 is now going to be in front with us as we head towards Asheboro. Here we meet with North Carolina Highway 22, and we're now getting signed for Asheboro once again, as 22 will actually take you up to Greensboro. Here we meet with Business 64, as we're taking to downtown Asheboro, while we're getting signed for Lexington, which is the correct choice. Here we meet with North Carolina 42 for the second time, and this way it gets signed for Asheboro and Sanford, which are the correct choices. And here we meet with 73 and 74 once again, and we're still getting signed for Lexington, while 73 and 74 North get signed for Greensboro. And I'm kind of iffy on that Rockingham. I don't know what else you could sign. Maybe once 74 gets extended, it could be Wilmington or Myrtle Beach. Or you can do what 220 dumps into currently, US 1 for Columbia. I mean, there's just so many choices up in the air. Plus, I did get my own picture of this junction, but I only managed to get exit 344A, so yeah. Anyways, after passing through Asheboro, we meet with Interstate 85 once again, and we get a rare instance of NCDOT using a Clearview font instead of Highway Gothic. Here we meet with US 29 and US 70 here in Lexington. And we're now splitting off from those highways. I was now getting signed west for Knoxville, which is the correct choice. Here we meet with Interstate 285 and US 52 once again, as they get signed for Charlotte and Winston-Salem, which are always correct choices. And here we meet with North Carolina Highway 150, as it's getting signed for Salisbury and Winston-Salem, while we're still getting signed for Knoxville, which is the correct choice. Here we meet with the western terminus of US Highway 158 here, in front of this cool fall foliage, while 64 and 601 are going to be continuing west towards Statesville. Here we split off from US Highway 601, as 64 is now going to continue towards Statesville. And here we meet with Interstate 40, as it's being signed for Winston-Salem, which is the correct choice, and Statesville for westbound. No, that should be Asheville. We should be getting signed for Statesville. And we meet Interstate 40 once again, and this is kind of redundant because US 64 is literally this exit here and this exit here on Interstate 40. There's literally nothing in between here. So yeah, that is pretty weird. Here in Statesville, we are crossing over Interstate 77 once again because we do have a direct interchange with it because of how close we are to Interstate 40. And then here in downtown Statesville, US 21 is actually splitting off from us because we met it before downtown. And here are meeting with US 70 once again, and we're now getting signed for Lenore and Asheville. Asheville is being signed here? This is pretty awesome, NCDOT. This is a rare W. We meet with Interstate 40 once again, and like going eastbound on 64, it's getting signed for Knoxville. No, that should be Winston-Salem, while we're getting signed for Taylorsville. No, that should be Lenore. And the next mileage sign, we get Lenore as our top line from 21 miles away, while we're getting Morgantown as our primary from 37, which is the correct choice. Here we meet with US 321 once again in Lenore, and 64 is going to continue west towards downtown Lenore and Morganton. Here in Morganton, we're meeting with US Highway 70 for another time, while 64 is going to be heading towards Interstate 40. Here we are meeting with Interstate 40 for the last time, as we're not going to see it again until eastern Memphis. And at that junction, 64 is now getting signed west toward Rutherfordton, which is the correct choice. Here we meet with 74 alternate and US 221 once again in Rutherfordton. And on that junction, we're now getting signed for Lake Lure and Chimney Rock once again. No, that should be Asheville and Hendersonville, not Lake Lure and Chimney Rock. And NCDOT does continue to stick with it. We have Lake Lure on our top line at 19 miles away, and Chimney Rock is literally another mile up the road. You want to know what the population of Chimney Rock is? It's only 140 people. I'm pretty sure, again, the only reason why we're signing is because there's a state park there. If you want to sign it because of the state park, I don't know, how about put it on a separate line on a brown sign? Well, this mileage sign should definitely be Hendersonville and Asheville. NCDOT, why do you do this? Here we have North Carolina 9 once again. And once we split off from 74 alternate in North Carolina 9, we're getting signed for Hendersonville, which is the correct choice, along with 2 Interstate 26. Here we have with Interstate 26 once again, and it's getting signed for Spartanburg and Asheville, which are the correct choices, while 64 West is getting signed for Hendersonville. And after passing through downtown Hendersonville, we're reuniting with US 276 and North Carolina 280, as we're now getting signed for Brevard, which is the correct choice. Here in Brevard, US 276 is splitting off from us, as we're now going to be heading towards Franklin. Here we are meeting with US Highway 178 in the middle of nowhere once again. And since we have no control cities, let us see what we're signed for on 178 itself. Are you kidding me? Why in the world does Cashiers come back? This should be Franklin. Again, Franklin is our next major town we're going to be passing through. So sign Franklin. What, do you have something against Franklin, NCDOT? Did he do something wrong against you? Sign Franklin. And here's one of the things that I've been ranting out the entire time. They finally do have a state park one-liner here. So if you can do it for Gorgeous State Park, why can't you do it for Chimney Rock or Jordan Lake? Come on, NCDOT. Inconsistency. Here in Cashiers, we're meeting with North Carolina 107 here, and we're getting signed for Highlands. No! Franklin! Franklin! And once we meet with North Carolina 106 here in Highlands, we are finally getting signed for Franklin once again. Thank you. And here in Franklin, we're meeting with 441 and US 23, and we're now getting signed for Clayton and Murphy, which is the correct choices. In fact, we get Clayton on the top line at 22 miles away, and Murphy is our primary from 54. Clayton is actually down in Georgia, so this is actually pretty cool. Here we split it off from US 23 and 441, as they're now getting signed for Clayton and Atlanta, which are the correct choices. While 64 West is now getting signed for Hayesville and Murphy. So if they can dual sign Hayesville going this direction on 64, why can't they do it on eastbound? In the next mileage line, we do get Hayesville as our top line and Murphy as our primary from 52. And after meeting with North Carolina 69 in Hayesville, we're now just getting a one-liner for Murphy from 16 miles away. And then when we get closer to Murphy, we actually get this odd mileage time here. We get Murphy from 4.5 miles away. This is like one of 3 instances where I've seen a mileage sign with a half. There's one down in South Carolina on Interstate 95, and then we're also going to be taking a look at one on US 70 here in a couple of weeks. So, this is pretty cool, I guess. I don't know, it just looks very odd. And then 4.5 miles up the road, we're reuniting with US 19 and 129 and 74 proper. And we're now going to be concurrent with it as we head toward Tennessee. And then still in Murphy, we get a direction sign here for Chattanooga and Atlanta. This is awesome! Here we split off from 19 and 129 as they're getting signed for Blairsville. But if you saw the 19 video, we actually do get signed for Atlanta with our next mileage sign, so that is awesome. While we're still getting signed for Chattanooga, which again is the correct choice because there's literally nothing between here and Chattanooga. And a little ways up the road, we're now re-entering back into the state of Tennessee, as 64 and 74 are going to continue towards Chattanooga. So we end US 64 North Carolina and move on to the way it should be. So these are all the places that I think it should be on 64 eastbound. First I do Murphy, then Franklin, then Brevard, Hendersonville, Rutherfordton, Morganton, Lenore, Statesville, Moxville, Lexington, Asheboro, Raleigh, Rocky Mount, Williamson, and then finally the Outer Banks region. And then for westbound, it's just the reverse, though you could do Manteo, Williamston, and after going through Roanoke Island, just Williamston, then Rocky Mount through Chattanooga. And that ends US Highway 64. Thank y'all so much for watching this locals guide on US Highway 64 in North Carolina. I hope you guys got to learn a little bit more about this highway from a locals perspective, and I hope one day you do visit US 64 here in North Carolina. It's a pretty interesting road. Anyways, this is my actual last locals guide of 2024, as I plan on making more in 2025. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all next year when we do another North Carolina local route.